Welcome to our channel Top Reddit Story. Make sure to subscribe our channel and leave a comment down below saying I subscribed, and we will try our hardest to reply your comment. What are some common signs that a person is toxic? Nothing is their fault. Absolutely. I had a really toxic friend once. At one point, he pushed me too hard on a certain subject and I ended up crying in front of him and two other friends in a public place. He then told me at that moment he felt sorry for himself. I still don't get how that works. All the bad things in the world happens to them, but it's never their fault. This is so ducking true. I dated this girl for a few months and she always had a reason why she couldn't hold a job, or why shit was always happening to her. It was never her fault though. They don't even have to be a bad person. Just bad for you. To me when seeing them causes you more stress than happiness. When they are only happy when they can make the people around them miserable. Also, when they ask you a question, knowing the answer they want to hear. I give them an honest answer and they flip out. Another. They don't hear what you actually say but put some negative spin on it, effectively putting words in your mouth that you actually didn't say. In all of these examples I am thinking about two people I know and despise. They use their friends as the butt of their jokes to impress people. The second someone confronts them about it, or jokes about them, they get upset. Compulsive lying. Refusing to take no for an answer. Excessive dependency. Disregard for what's important to others in favor of what's important to them. An old friend of mine. Like 30 years. He knows my parents are somewhat hoarders. So he would, for a period, shoot me an email like, "Let me help your parents sell stuff." Then before I could even reply and explain it was their decision, not mine, he'd show up, go through their stuff seeking out the most valuable item, then propose to sell it for 5% of value and he gets 50% of the take, so he gets 2.5% of the value. And we lose 97.5% of the value. And not only me. Some other mutual friends have reported the same behavior. He wasn't even trying to help the situation. He was using it as an excuse to cherry pick the valuables and profit off of them. He never did sell anything since everybody put their foot down on him. And he at least has the ethics to respect that. You always leave them feeling emotionally drained. Introverts must think everyone in their lives is toxic. If you need to talk about something upsetting to you and the person makes it all about himself, not even trying to look like he cares, I always feel self-conscious if I bring up something that happened in the past that's similar or something involving me. Even though I usually do it as a I have this similar issue and here's what seemed to help what ended up happening. Because I'm worried it will come across as taking about myself. And not just making a short relative allusion to a similar event. I always bring it right back to them. But it still is a thing of not wanting to be mistaken in that moment. Self-absorption. Inflated sense of self-importance. Selfish. Greedy. A master manipulator. Lies about everything. Etc. My mom was like this, so I know this sheet firsthand. Damn, all these comments remind me of one of my best friends whose sheet I'm finally getting tired of. Thanks guys. I like this thread. When you look at everything through rose-colored glasses, all the red flags just look like flags. I once had an ex who admitted to sabotaging one of my previous relationships because she was jealous. I took some time off from my phone to just play video games and relax. I didn't want to argue with her. A few hours later, she was cutting her wrists. I couldn't even take a few hours to relax before she was trying to make herself the victim. As humans, when someone is broken, we have a desire to fix them. And that's wonderful. But when fixing them is clearly breaking you, you have to step back. No matter how much that person needs you. If their life seems to have a hard reset every few months or years where they burn every bridge, change jobs, have a completely new set of friends, move to a new place, are in a different relationship, etc. And of course, They never maintain connections or talk to all their old friends and family. And won't give you a straight answer as to why. That is a huge warning that someone is highly unstable and probably severely pisses off everyone they know. They always need people emotionally there for them. But they become distant the second someone has emotional needs in return. The most toxic friendship of my life ended abruptly when I realized she was not on my side. She did lots of things to illustrate that over the years, but I always could come up with a way to excuse her behavior. She was literally portraying herself to my other friends as someone who knew me better and longer and was there for the authority on me. And then telling them I was awful. She did that to a boy I liked who she liked too. So I excused it cause she was trying to win. But she continued to talk me to him after she got engaged to someone else. It all came down in the end to a conversation. She described me to me. And she very simply did not believe in me. She thought very little of me. And ended this insulting portrait with, "But I love you unconditionally and I will always love you." I just understood then finally that she was breaking me. That she was poisoning my own view of myself. She was wrecking my reputation. And she knew me for so long that she ought to have known me better. That if in all those years that's all she got, she was never going to know me and was only going to hang around making my life worse. I ran the duck away and never looked back. The toxic people I have encountered never own up to their mistakes and always blame other people. They only care about themselves and clearly don't listen or care when you share with them during a conversation. The conversation must always revolve around them. They constantly complain, are never positive and thrive on drama in their lives. Plus you feel exhausted around them or extremely uncomfortable because you're always walking on eggshells wondering if they are going to make a big deal over the smallest thing. When you have to apologize for everything even if you haven't done anything really. Also if they are always saying bad things about you but declare that these things are just jokes and you make a joke about them one time and they are mad af. I was just describing a toxic woman I know to somebody yesterday. And told them that in any positive situation, she can find a negative. Some of the examples I gave were, "Wow. It's sunny today, yeah. That thing you were waiting for just got here. 15 minutes late." As usual, it's all little stuff. But it really adds up after a while. Saying or doing something that makes you upset and calling you sensitive or any other insult for being upset is a good, simple first sign. If you're really curious or worried that someone may be toxic, get on YouTube and watch videos about gaslighting and narcissistic abuse. It will open your eyes to a bunch of toxic behaviors. My favorite YouTuber regarding this issue is Narcissism Survivor. Self-absorbed. Everything they do for other people feels fake and or like they are doing you a favor that they want you to pay back. If you realize you're a worse person around them, don't get things done. Become an ass. Become depressed or anxious. End up regretting things you've done with them like drinking too much. etc. They're probably toxic to you. Had a roommate I really enjoyed living with. But realized she was toxic when moved out and saw that her attitude of C's get degrees really impacted my own motivation and brought my own grades down as well, as compared to when I lived with my overachiever best friend and got straight A's. She wasn't a bad person at all. It was just that her attitude influenced me in a negative way. When you realize that being around them is an obligation, and something you're doing not because you want to, but because you fear what you'll have to put up with if you don't. That you feel worse rather than recharged after you've seen them. When the thought of seeing them makes you anxious or uncomfortable. They quickly judge people without wanting to understand the original intent. In other words, they put more energy into what happened than why it happened. They put other people down to elevate themselves. The most obvious sign for me is that they won't offer to help anyone. They may, begrudgingly, do something they view as an obligation. However, will never actively offer help to those around them. 90% of her conversation is about ranting and complaining. You don't look forward to hearing from them or seeing them. You dread having to interact with them. When they react to something good in someone's life negatively, For instance, someone got married and all they do is make fun of them or assume they'll get divorced. They complain about everything that happens to them, but they take no responsibility for it or make an effort to change. Everything you do or say is filtered as something negative to them, no matter your intention. Take note of when they want to be around you. If you're happy, are they genuinely happy for you and want to share in your joy? Or does this person find an excuse to avoid you or change the focus away from your good mood? Conversely, if you're feeling down, do they find a way to infiltrate your mood? Focus on your unhappiness and drag it out rather than help you out of it? TLDR, a good friend will want to be around you no matter what, sharing in your happiness and supporting you when you're not. They never take responsibility for their actions. Sometimes they deny that it even happened. But if it did, it was your fault, not theirs. They constantly talk about things and people that they hate and have no positivity whatsoever. You feel aggravated by everything they say. They brag in a way that makes you feel they are criticizing you. They always talk shit about what's basic and what's legit. And you feel like your stuff is being called basic. They talk to you only about their own interests and won't be sidetracked. Your role is to listen, not to offer a point of view. Like, shut up, I'm talking to you. They always flake. Sometimes they don't even tell you. They just don't show up. They ask you who else will be there, and sound like you have to work to sell them your party trip restaurant plans. There is drama. You talk to them, and then you get an angry call from someone that you said this or that. You can't just be yourself. They will find fault in anything you do. They make friendly jokes at your expense constantly. They aren't really your friend. You're too sensitive. No. You're an ass. Constant poor me attitude and always having something wrong. Basically always talking about your problems. My wife's adopted sister was like this. The first time I met her I noticed she was very manipulative and always had some personal issue she couldn't wait to share. After a few years, my sister finally saw what I saw the first time I met her. She finally realized the wedge between her and her real sister was created by this adopted sister through lies and fabricated drama. We no longer allow this toxicity in our life and have made it clear where we stand with her parents who still fail to see the truth. Well, her dad has figured it out. But her mom is another story. They can't be happy for anyone around them if they aren't the center or attention. I had a girlfriend that I considered a really close friend, until I got engaged and our other mutual friend got pregnant, and it turned out to be a rough pregnancy with twins. Up until then we all shared our lives and talked to each other all day. But once our lives started to progress in a different direction than hers, she was no longer interested and even said, "I don't want to talk to y'all about your lives because you're always happy and it makes me upset. Can we talk about me?" There was nothing in her life that should have made her upset. She's beautiful, successful and in a loving relationship. She just couldn't handle anyone being happy that wasn't her. Our entire friend group hasn't talked to her in months and it feels so good. It took a long time, almost 15 years, to realize she only wanted to hear about our lives if we were upset, and then she'd try to top it by making herself sound even more unhappy so that we'd all focus on her. Twins of Reddit, what is your most awkward awesome wrong twin story? Identical twin here attending the same college as my twin brother. I was walking with my girlfriend at the time during my freshman year, and another girl approached me and said, "Oh, so this is why you didn't want to call me back." I didn't know this girl, but it also didn't register at the time that she was referring to my twin, who I assume ghosted her. I told this girl she must be mistaken, and she says, "No, I know it's you, we met in the dorms," and then it clicked for me. So I explained that she was confusing me for my twin brother. But the most awkward part is that she didn't believe a word I was saying and thought I was just using the twin story to try to get rid of her. I had her call me at the time and show her that my phone wasn't ringing and that she was calling my twin. My girlfriend was upset at first, but then basically realized the humor in the situation as it was unfolding. My twin had recently joined the Navy and was at boot camp. I, on the other hand, was walking around the grocery store when a man came running up to me in a panic. He began to shout, "What in the hell are you doing here? You're going to go to federal prison." A bit shocked, I assumed it was just some crazy person and started to back away, but he followed. So I said, "Sir, I don't know what you're talking about." He then proceeded to say my twin's name and then I started laughing. He, still very panicked and now angry, asked why I thought this was funny. I explained I am such and such's twin. He didn't believe me until I finally pulled my ID, about to prove I was who I said I was. He then apologized and explained he was her enlisting officer and was very concerned when he saw me. My grandparents were getting us ready for kindergarten. They put the wrong name tags on us, but we did not notice. I was just sitting in class and all of a sudden the teacher goes, "My brother's name. You're in the wrong class." We had different teachers. She brings me to my brother's classroom and takes him to hers. I was so scared I didn't say anything, and I felt like I did something wrong. After a few minutes I was so freaked out about being in an unfamiliar place and seeing all the strange faces I started crying. My brother's kindergarten teacher figured out what was wrong and sent us back to our real classrooms. Me and my twin are fraternal and look nothing alike. This was like the third week of class. This was my dad's story, but he and my uncle look exactly alike, to the point where their wives of 2+ decades have confused them. When they were in college, my dad was the lead in a show and my uncle came to see it opening night. My uncle saw his chance and, while my dad was in the bathroom, burst through the curtains and said, "That's it. I've had it. I can't work with these people anymore," and stormed off. The director was basically shitting himself. BC nobody knew that my dad had a twin until my dad came back and, once he saw everyone's faces, basically said, "Yeah, my twin is coming tonight. He messed with y'all, right?" I dated a girl whose twin was a life drawing model on campus. Guys were always approaching her when they mistook her and assumed that since they had seen her nude, she was easy. I'm a teacher and when I was student teaching there were twin girls. They were super cute and very hard to tell apart. I finally got to the point where I could tell which was which. One morning I confidently called them by their names, but they corrected me. I made note of what they were wearing and kept them straight the rest of the morning. Well, we were going over a lessons and I called on twin A. She began to cry and said, "I'm not twin A, I'm twin B." They decided that they were going to switch on us that morning, but then got upset when we called them the wrong name. We laughed so hard about it after the fact and their mom was appalled that they were already switching places in kindergarten. I'm the brother of older, identical twins, and during the eldest's wedding, J, his twin, P, and myself were his groomsmen. As part of this, we were greeting guests as they arrived, shaking their hands and saying welcome etc. It didn't take long for guests to start congratulating P on his wedding, causing him to laugh and correct them. At first, a lot of J's wife's family were from overseas, so they certainly hadn't met P before and may not have even known that J had a twin. So once they started arriving, it became a constant stream of people congratulating P on his wedding. Eventually he stopped correcting them and just slightly awkwardly saying thanks. Had a co-worker who had kids 5 years before his twin. He started looking so much older people just assumed he was an older brother. Guys at the gym would come up to him thinking he was the other brother and tell Hook he looked like sheet. Other way around. 2. Guys would come up to his brother and tell him he looked great thinking it was my friend. The difference was crazy. My sister worked at Walmart for a few weeks before I started working there too. We had a few fun moments. The first one was my first day. She had an earlier shift and just as I was going to go in the back door she was coming out. So no one knew she was a twin and here was an identical person trying to go through the door at the same time. Without think I yelled, "We are never supposed to be in the same place at the same time." Then I ran away. Everyone was freaked out. My other favorite thing to do was to mess with people she had just helped. In electronics, they would ask, "Hey, didn't I just see you? And I don't know. I've been here all day. It was fun. Edit. Thanks for the silver. We were in middle school. Was on the school bus and heard someone call my twin brother's name Jay. I turn and see his girlfriend extremely upset. And she slaps me right across the face. I was just dumbfounded and didn't say a word as she walked away. I passed the message along to him later with a much harder slap. Good times. This isn't the wrong twin story you probably meant, but it's mine lol. So my twin and I are fraternal. We don't look alike at all. He's a guy. I'm a girl, so there is that too. So we are at an arcade place. They have laser tag. My brothers and I are waiting on a bench for our turn when a couple comes walking by, stops and asks, "Are you guys twins?" I jump up excited saying yes, finally someone realizes we are twins, how awesome. Their faces are completely blank. My twin goes, no, I think they meant me and younger brother. So like I said, we don't look anything alike. Also I'm 5'5" and my twin is 6'1". Lots of times people ask, are you actually related? So that's my wrong twin story lol. I'm a nanny. Took care of 7-year-old identical twin boys. Names started with D and B. After school. One day they decided to wear the same clothes to see who they could trick. When they got off the bus they tried to get me to tell them apart. I stalled by having them stand side by side so I could really look at their faces. After less than a minute they started elbowing each other. Then one said, "B. Stop." And they both knew the gig was up. Edit. I attempted to fix the 7 identical toddlers problem. And you're hilarious with these D and B names. I'll tell you that at least one of these guesses is half right. Me and my twin are both in the same major at the same school. I'm told we stand out a bit and are quite recognizable cause people see us all over and never realize we're twins. Anyways. On one of my trips to college a couple months back I had a guy come up to me and confess how much he looked up to me about how I always sit in the front, show up every day and seem smart and always do well. He was talking about my brother cause I didn't show up to class too often. In my school, we do punches, a little hole punches in a card, and if you get 10 punches, you get a reward. So my math teacher gives me a punch if she calls me by my twin's name. So she called me by my twin's name. Then she is like, "Oh, gotta give you a punch," then said, "Is this your desk?" Twin's name. I corrected her again and ended up getting a lunch party. She didn't even have my twin. It has happened at least 6 times this year. Edit. This is in my 6th grade year. P. Surprised this got this much karma and attention. Thank you guys. Had a buddy from the scatter park who had a twin. This guy and I would always sheet talk each other. One day I see him and walk up to him. "What's up, Tippet? The duck you dressed like that for? It's not gonna make your busted ass skate any better." "Excuse me? You go deaf too, Dumbus?" He gets in my face and starts asking what my problem is. I'm laughing the entire time thinking we're playing a game. Until he shoves me hard. I fall backwards and look at him and yell, "Sean. The duck man?" His face completely changed. "I'm Shane, dude. Sean's twin." I didn't know he had a twin. Next time I see Sean he cracks up. "Heard my brother almost beat your ass." Not about me but about my father who has an identical twin. I wasn't told the specifics of this story, but basically my uncle had quite a bad gambling problem which led to him borrowing money off some dodgy people. And surprisingly my uncle lost all the money gambling and so was unable to pay back the people he had borrowed it from. IDK who these people were, but I'm guessing that they are some sort of gang or some shit, because they then started searching for my uncle to basically beat the shit out of him for not paying them back, but instead found my dad. Apparently my dad was only moments away from having his knees busted before he convinced them he wasn't my uncle by showing them some pictures of them together. Luckily my dad wasn't harmed and the whole experience caused my uncle to get help for his addiction. MT twin and I went to the same uni but different campuses. One day she was at my campus for a lecture and one of my teachers spotted her. He went up to her and tried to convince her to go to his office to discuss one of the projects I was working on. She obviously freaked out and said she wasn't me. I ended up receiving an email from him saying he met my sister and accidentally scared her. We also used to work for the same company but different floors and departments. So many random people would say hello to me. I have major resting itch face, so they would always say that my sister was in a foul mood. Took them a while to twig there was two of us. So I have a twin sister, let's call her K, and K is engaged to T. One night I went on a Tinder date to the movies. Throughout the movie this guy and I were getting close and snuggly and whatnot. The next day a server at the restaurant T owns asked to talk to him. She proceeded to tell him she saw his girlfriend K at the movies last night with another guy and that she thinks K is cheating. He told her that was impossible as K was with him all night the night before. He then realized that she must have seen me at the movies and explained to the waitress the whole twin situation. It's one of my favorite stories to tell. Edit for spelling. Not me. But I'm best friends with identical twins and we hang out a lot. Well, we made plans one time to go see a movie. But when I got there, one of them wasn't there. I thought the one that was there was the one who stayed home the entire time we were together. When we were saying bye I addressed her as the other one and she was like, bro, WTF. I'm Emily. I don't think she has ever forgiven me for that. I dated a twin who was slightly shorter and cuter than his brother. Every single time I called his house, this was before cell phones were common, I'd hear his mother ask, are you Henry or Harry? Okay, awesome mom. Not a twin. But I had that excuse used against me. I dated a twin pretty seriously for a while. Got on really well with his family who were super welcoming because I was normal compared to his underage, actually psychotic ex. We hung out with his twin brother and the brother's girlfriend all the time. After things got serious, a few times people told me they saw my boyfriend with another girl downtown or at the movies. I'd asked him what was up and he was always like, nope. Must have seen my brother. Turns out he never broke it off with a psycho and it went on for months. I got a text from a friend saying they saw him at the mall when I thought he was at work. So I went to the mall and parked right next to him. Texted him while he was at work and waited for him to come out. His parents were so mad at his stupidity they kicked him out of the house and then invited me over for tea and apologies. Not a twin. But my sis and I look and sound pretty close. Anyways, I answer a phone call one day on the landline and there's a girl on the other side. She goes, "Bitch. What's cooking?" I immediately know it's one of my sister's friends. But I decide to play innocent and go, "Who's this?" The friend continues going, "Who or what the duck are you on about? You know who the duck I am. It's Jessica. JESS." And then I go, "I'm not, name, I am her sister." There is sudden silence on the other side. I hear a startled giggle from another person in the room. And then the girl on the line very meekly goes, "May I speak to sister, please? XD." I have some triplet friends who all still live in the same town. The funniest story they had was that apparently all three of them impregnated their respective wives within a 2-year span and all three wives chose the same object. The OB didn't know the names of the husbands. Only saw the last name, baby, and the woman's name. All three said the OB was super rude and mean to them until finally triplet 1 and triplet 2 had appointments back to back. The OB came in and saw both of them. Did a double take. And asked, "There's more than one of you?" They of course replied, "Yeah. There's 3. We're triplets." I guess this OB thought one guy had impregnated 3 different women and was just rolling with his adultery. My older twin brothers don't have Reddit, so I'll tell the story. But once, the married twin's wife was having a small medical procedure and her husband was unable to pick her up. So my other brother was going to pick her up. In her amnesia state, she was 100% convinced that the brother that picked her up was her husband. Even when her actual husband came home from work. She was very upset that my brother would not kiss her or tell her he loved her, lol. Eventually they got her to go to sleep and when she woke up she figured it all out. To bed shortly after she still couldn't remember who her husband was and often found herself in other beds. Must be a lasting effect. Ex-wife now. Not a twin but have a story. I went to school with a set of twins and they were right little sheets. Always bullied me and treated me like crap. I was about 6-7. Anyway, one day I was eating alone on this seating area and they walked up to me and pushed me off and laughed. Because of the way the seat was, I couldn't get up easily, so they kept laughing for a few minutes. Anyway, a few weeks later I was still pissed off and I saw them together. This was on the day of an athletics event as well, so parents were everywhere into my own. I casually walked over to one of them and with full force I slapped him. Through tears the kid looked at me and said it wasn't even me, it was my brother. Oopsie. My twin brother and I were counselors at a summer camp. We were in different huts, so we led different aged kids for a week. Whenever I would pass the kids he was counseling or vice versa. They would scream confused and ask many questions. It became a daily debacle. My favorite story was I got a job at a grocery store near home. The main entrance and side entrance were relatively close to each other and I took groceries out with a customer and disappeared behind a wall that led to the side door and only that side door. Within seconds of me being out of view, my stepdad and twin walk in the main entrance door. I drop off the customer's groceries at their car, say goodbye and come in the main entrance door. And one of the cashiers is looking at me like he's seen a ghost. I have no idea why. So I ignore and go back to work. 15-20 minutes later my dad and brother show up at the register. And I say hey, we bullshit for a minute or two and I take the chance to help them to their car because they won't say no and I can get away for a few minutes. When I come back and that cashier, Taylor, pulls me aside and goes, "You're a twin?" and proceeds to tell me what just happened and how confused he was. 6 months later my twin gets a job at the store. We have people start conversations with one of us and try to finish with the other. Sometimes due to workflow we'll both bag for the same person but not at the same time. They don't notice a difference. Eventually people start to figure it out, but some laughs were had. I am an identical twin and my brother and I were at homecoming. Both wearing basically the same outfit because there is really only one kind of blazer and white button down. It was dark at the after party. His dates thought I was my brother and tried to start dancing with me. Had to awkwardly say wrong person. Not my story, but a friend's. He had a twin brother. They went to the mall together one day and got separated. So then my friend looks all around. He finds someone who looks like his twin. He smacks the person's back and yells, "Why the hell did you leave me?" Turns out it was a girl with short hair, who immediately started crying and kept repeating, "I'm sorry, Jack. He was better for me." My friend gave that girl a mental breakdown, but he found his twin. So, this happened to me about a year ago. I currently live in Singapore and was out for dinner with my girlfriend at the time. My girlfriend bends over and quietly tells me there is this woman walking around taking pictures of me. So I look over and she is trying to be very discreet about it. She sees me notice her and comes over looking very angry and angrily asks me what the hell I'm doing and how I could cheat on my wife. And I'm completely dumbfounded. I have no idea who this woman is or who she is talking about. So I just tell her that I've never been married. She proceeds to just stare at me and then asks me, "Wait, are you name of my twin brother?" Me, "No, that's my brother." At which point she proceeds to turn red and start apologizing profusely. Turns out this woman was on holiday and works with my sister-in-law. My brother was also on travel for work in China, not Singapore, and she assumed that he was lying to meet up with my girlfriend and cheat on my sister-in-law. It was an awkward as hell experience, but made for a good laugh at least.